my mic too quiet, or can you all hear me?
Yes,
It's
I can
great.
hear you.
Okay. So to start with, I'm gonna do a video, and then we have some slides, and then a live demo, which might be dangerous. So here's an app I made a couple years ago. It's a tower defense game that you play on a dartboard, and it's running in Steam VR Home. And it was at a hackathon, so we did it in the most hacky way possible, which was using 2 Vive headsets and 2 computers. And this app is running on a second machine while it's being composited to a different machine in post. So it was a total hack. But the thing I want to talk about is what the future could look like when we have these standards for compositing applications together, where it doesn't have to be a hack or a a non-perfect system, something where it's actually designed for multiple applications. And I think of this like a operating system that can load apps or whatever, and there's an internet connection. But so for the slides, we're talking about universal cyberspace hardware, and it's not going to really be the normal kind of hardware you think about. This is more like if you imagine a world where everyone wears AR headsets and your computing is all done on your face. What does hardware really do if it's not on your face? Is it just like a model? So here we have some art that I made that got me really into this whole internet stuff, because I didn't ever know any examples of how multiple applications could actually connect together if you do have the space where you can have multiple things in the same place. And luckily I was in college, and I went around and talked to people, and they're like, oh, WebSockets are a thing. So I did my little Socket.io WebSocket thing. So all these Chrome windows can actually communicate across WebSockets and then work together to create a keyboard out of multiple applications. But of course, you could expand it with any kind of keys you want. And this is, people are talking about blockchain where things are kind of very securely locked down and watched. But I'm a big fan of just this kind of open, able to communicate. Anything can talk to anything. Everything should be open. Not everything has to be serious, money, business. Some things can just be a game and it's not a big deal. And that's where a lot of innovation can be. So here's some hardware. On the left, we have an exercise ball, and also maybe a keyboard that could just be connected to the web. And on the right, this is a hula hoop. So, what are you really looking at? What is a hula hoop? What could it do in a game? And who's going to make a game that you have to buy a hula hoop, to play? Who's going to, put all that money into making custom hula hoop hardware for, creating? This was a UFO that you could control by moving the hula hoop, leaning it to the, at whatever angle, that's the angle you'd move. You could raise it up and down and go up and down. It was supposed to be like a locomotion device that you could kind of control. One of the ideas was, why do people get VR sick? Do you get car sick? And most people do get car sick occasionally, but if you ask them, well, do you ever get car sick while you're actually driving the car? They don't get sick because they're actually in control of where they're going. So it'd be fun if we had really intuitive forms of locomotion that aren't just, thumbsticks and stuff like that, that, half the population has no idea how to use a thumbstick or what it even is really doing. So here is my favorite, let's see, what is this? It's a selfie stick. And you'll see people doing research on how do you make these peripherals that can be like, they're like pegboards, and you put weights in these different locations and all this stuff. But there was a time when selfie sticks were a huge meme, and they're so cheap. And so this you can actually extend and retract to, it will create a different center of mass. So, if you extend it all the way, you kind of have like a golf club. If you, lower it in all the way, then you have a, like a frying pan. So now this thing can literally be an entire infinite range of objects. So who's now going to make a peripheral that can be anything in any game? It's literally impossible to make a game that has every idea of what a stick can be. And the cool thing, the way you can actually calibrate this just with one sensor is if you picture like a fairy like twisting their wrist, that little rotation around a sphere can give you the length of the rod. It's kind of like calculating the center of a circle with the diameter. You can kind of know where that center point is. So you can do like a little flick gesture and then instantly know the length. So you can just quickly make it shorter and longer, and it can instantly change on the fly with software. But now we need software that could accept these different variables. So I made one yesterday. I made a controller, and no game supports this dang thing. And I'm gonna try to give a live demo without dying. So let me try to switch over. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Dreams. It's a engine where everything is made inside the engine, even the art. The only other game I know like that is Anyland. Most things are importer and exporter kind of deals. But so it doesn't have VR support yet, so this is a little rough. But here, this is my hands on this board that has this controller that's attached with tack. And this tack can now, keep it on there, and I'm just getting gyro input, and I can show you that circuit. But so if I stand on it, you can kind of see I'm balancing a good bit. So now we have the first part of the problem, which is how do we get the virtual device into the engine? It's now in here. We have a board. But then the next problem is, well, how can you now control a game with it? Unless you're just going to make an entire suite of games from scratch. Good examples of that are, the Wii Fit series, and now the latest, what they call it, Ring Fit Adventure. You have this company that has the power to make all these games because they have all the people. So I modded a game, and here, this engine, everything is kind of open source in a way, where over here you can just wire in the gyro, but let me switch. I wish I had my sound on, but so here's a game. It got a really cool drum track. Oh. So I'm gonna, get totally destroyed at this, but crap. I'm doing better than I did. And I didn't modify the difficulty of this at all, which I really should have. This is just off the shelf, a game that, oh my gosh, that you normally control with like a thumbstick. But I modded the, bumpers. So when you go up to the left, it's left bumper, up to the right is right bumper. Ooh. But hopefully you can see I'm somewhat in control. Just fell. And since there's no VR support, this is just pure gyro data, which is awful because gyros drift. And if you wanted to be in the center of a balance board, you don't want that center point to drift. Oh, it's almost over, I think. Yeah, so this is just a random game I found yesterday, but there could be a whole, series of games that people find and share. And if you were wearing an AR headset, you'd really just look at the board. It would be recognized by, the spatial mapping of the thing, and then it would just automatically work. It could all be kind of loaded from NPM and stuff like that. Because you're just removing all the, circuity bits from the hardware itself. And, then when we have muscle tracking, and you won't even need buttons. Oh, I died. Okay. Super fast. Let me just show. the best I've done. Where I edited it. So I just went up here. All I did literally went into the controls of the racer and added my circuit, which would then be, on this app store. So anyone with one of these boards, they just, tape their controller to it, load the circuit, and they have their inputs and outputs. And so it was like, it took a second. So the stuff that I'm super passionate about, though, is once we begin to imagine this world where we can have multiple applications running at once, everyone's working their best to get everything connected together. How can we get people to start? Oh, I moved over here. How can we get people to start creating things from their imagination without worrying if it's real code or not? Just brainstorming, how can we make different objects and connect them and make new languages that are actually meant to communicate over the internet or sockets or whatever the heck, or maybe devices that are talking into a blockchain or whatever. But it seems like, people know how to talk, they know how to work together, they know how to, imagine things working together, pretend or whatever. So there's all these new programming languages that could exist if we had the freedom to make systems where they could exist. And that's the talk. Any questions?
Mind blown.
Yes, that was awesome.
Thank you all.